Hi friends, I'm telling you about the animated film Fire and Ice. Please give us a thumbs up if you like our videos. In ancient times, there lived a powerful Queen Juliana in the north. She wielded magic and intended to conquer the whole world. To this end, she gathered a huge army. Juliana gave birth to a son and named him Nekron. She trained him in dark magic and special sorcery so that he could influence the surrounding space with the power of his mind. Nekron grew up as a child and mastered the use of magic. Together with Juliana, they seized power in Land of Ice. After that, the mother and son sent their army to the southern lands. No settlement could indeed withstand the horde of the northern rulers. The survivors of these battles moved further south to a land located among volcanoes. It was ruled by the generous King Gerald, and his castle was called Hotspot. Despite the best efforts of the southern tribes, the Nekron pushed the vast ice masses further south. He was preparing for a decisive showdown with Gerald, where it would be determined whether fire or ice would rule the world. When Nekron approached the next settlement, some of the southern warriors were frightened by his power. But not Larn. He was ready to fight desperately, but the sorcerer shattered the ice wall, and chunks of ice rained down on the warriors. A rider known by the nickname Dark Wolf was watching the icy bombardment from the mountain. When the glacier collapsed, Nekron's barbarians attacked the survivors. These primitive people were ruthless and killed everyone who got in their way. Then they roamed the battlefield, collecting the jewelry that was on the corpses. Meanwhile, Juliana came to her son to congratulate him on his victory. The Great Plain was the only thing separating them from the hotspot, but Juliana plans to defeat the Southerners without a battle. She is going to send messengers to King Gerald with a demand for surrender. If he refuses, Nekron's savages will kidnap his daughter Tigress. And while Juliana was giving orders, Larn woke up among the bodies of his tribesmen. He suddenly observed Nekron's dogs wandering everywhere, and started killing them one by one. When the enemies became too many, Larn ran away. He climbed up a tall tree, and when he was just surrounded, he jumped down, hoping for a lucky escape. And it really didn't take long. The vines softened the hero's landing, saving his life. When the messengers from Nekron arrived at Gerald's castle, the king's daughter Juliana was in her chambers. Gerald met with the messengers and rejected the northern sorceress's demands for surrender. At that moment, the barbarians broke into Princess Tigress's room and took the girl with them. Realizing that Tigra has been kidnapped, Gerald and his son Taro kill the messengers and send people to chase after the kidnappers, riding on flying lizards. Although there was little hope that the princess would be spotted from the air. Gerald stays in the castle, waiting for the attack from the north. He realizes that the war is about to begin. When the Necro hounds stopped to rest and drink water, they pushed the princess into a small pond. She realized that she had a chance to escape. So, Tigra gracefully lowered the guards' vigilance by elegantly showing them her curves, and then she dove underwater and swam away. Surfacing on the other side of the pond, she escaped. Regained senses, savages chased her. Tigra carefully hid in the hollow trunk of a fallen tree, and just when the Necro minions were about to suddenly discover her, a giant, enormous carnivorous insect attacked one of them, and they fled in fear. At that moment, her father's people were flying over the swamps where the tiger was, but they did not see her. Larn defeated a savage. Tigra traveled until reaching another pond. Necro hounds caught her, but a lizard devoured them. Not all perished in the beast. Here, the Necro hounds caught up with her, but when they tried to grab the princess from the water, a lizard jumped out and devoured the scoundrels. However, not everyone ended their life in the belly of the beast. One of the enemies survived and tried to attack the princess. Tigra had to quickly grab a branch and stab him. Juliana came to surviving barbarians in smoke. Upon learning Tigra had escaped, she ordered she be found. And to make sure the savages would definitely follow her orders, she killed one of them for letting the princess slip away. As Larn trudged along, he encountered a small pack of wolves. They pounced on him, sensing an easy prey. Larn had a spear with him at all times, and he used it as a pole to jump. Jumping over the pack, Larn ran away, and the predators chased after him. When he was cornered, he pulled out a knife and started to defend himself, but there were fewer wolves now. That mysterious rider had killed one using a bow and arrows. The two remaining ones weren't in a hurry to attack. They lingered around for a while and then left. Larn moved on. When he found himself on the grounds of an ancient temple, he managed to find some food. Here he noticed that someone was watching him. Larn quietly pretended to be asleep and waited for the stranger to come closer. The stranger turned out to be Tigra. She was hungry, and seeing the prey, Larn decided to steal some meat. He tried to quickly grab her, but Tigra dodged and led Larn along with her. She started a fire and they roasted what was left of the wild boar together. In the morning, Tigra said she was heading south to her home. Larn was also heading in that direction, so they decided to travel together. Before setting off on their journey, they started goofing around and fell into the water. They were attacked by a giant squid. It dragged Larn down into the depths, but he managed to pierce the creature's eye, and it let him go. Tigra made it to the shore. Here, the Nekron dog sneaked up on her and grabbed her. The monster threw Larn onto the shore. He was picked up by the Dark Wolf. He healed Larn's wounds and mentioned that he had been trying to take down Nekron and Julian for a long time. United, Larn and the Dark Wolf returned to the body of water where the giant squid lived. Tigra was no longer here. The wolf found the kidnappers' tracks, and he and Larn set off to rescue the princess. Meanwhile, the savages bound Tigra with chains and tied her to one of their own. This way she won't escape. To celebrate her capture, they got drunk, which gave the princess an advantage. She mercilessly killed her guard and dragged him aside. However, she didn't notice that there was a cliff behind her and fell down along with the corpse tied to her. The Dark Wolf and Larn tracked down the kidnappers. The rider set off to deal with the barbarians, and Larn had to find Tigra. But she wasn't among the savages. After killing a few of them, the wolf and Larn escaped. In the morning, a giant named Otvu found Tigra. He broke the chains and took her to his mother's dwelling, a witch named Ruliel. Meanwhile, Gerald had lost all hope of finding his daughter. He decides to start negotiations with Nekron and his mother. Gerald believes that they can negotiate, and then there will be a chance to save Tigra. He sends Taro for negotiations. The prince is not eager to go into the enemy's lair with a white flag. But he has to, because that's the only way he can save his sister and bargain for a chance for his kingdom. At that moment, Ruliel pretends to care for Tigra, but in reality, she is drugging her. When the princess falls asleep, the witch tries to find out who this girl is. And realizing she was the daughter of King Gerald, whom Nekron was searching for, Ruliel decides to trade her for a good deal. She sends Otvu to the savages and asks him to convey that she will only give up the princess for a reward. Nekron's hounds are not used to bargaining. They bravely kill the giant, and then they safely go home to Ruliel and take Tigra. They kill the witch and completely burn her dwelling. Another group of savages is chasing Larn and the Dark Wolf at the same time, but they manage to fend them off and escape unharmed. Larn notices smoke from Rolly's burned cabin and heads there. He finds the charred bones of the sorcerer. They come to life and tell Larn where the princess has been taken. Rolly wants Larn to take revenge for her and finish off the cursed necromancer. When Larn arrives in Akatar, where Tigra was about to be transported to the Ice Kingdom, he notices the ship that Taro is sailing on. Realizing that this man is heading to the necromancer, Larn jumps onto his ship just as it's about to leave and jumps off when it gets close to the ice. Juliana brings Tigra to her son. She wants the princess to become his wife so that she can bear him children. So their dynasty will become even more powerful. But the necromancer is not interested in the bloodline. Tigra decides that she can melt the ice heart of the sorcerer and offers friendship between the two kingdoms. However, the necromancer rejects her and mocks the princess's offer.
I'll squash you like a bug!
Then he orders throwing Tigra into the pit with the corpses, while the savages' Ice Kingdom, distracted by Taro, who arrived negotiations, Larn sneaked into the necromancer's lair and set off in search of the princess. The talks with the sorcerer were not going well. Taro quickly lost his composure and drew his sword to kill the necromancer. He took control of his body and forced him to finish off his comrades. Then he commanded Taro to plunge the blade into his own body, and Taro obeyed. Corpses were thrown into same pit where Tigra was. Seeing her brother's body, she screamed in despair. At that moment, Larn tried to kill the necromancer, but he was ready for the attack. The sorcerer decided to have some fun and fought Larn in a sword duel. The hero wounded him, and the necromancer trapped Larn in the dungeon. Tigra saw this and tried to free him, but one of the sorcerer's savages grabbed her. After that, another savage entered Larn's room. The hero knocked him out and ran away. The necromancer sent his hounds after him, but Larn helped deal with the pursuers. The Dark Wolf. Then he and Larn went to King Jalu and told him what had happened. They suggested to invade the sorcerer's castle riding on flying lizards, so they will have a chance to find and rescue the princess. Geralt approves of this plan, and when all his pterodactyl air force leaves the castle, he begins preparations for war. If the necromancer gets too close, he'll have to melt the enemy's icebergs with lava. The plan with the flying lizards works. Only the Dark Wolf and Lan remain alive from the entire squad. The wolf bravely confronts the Nekron and kills him. He manages to resist the sorcerer's magic, and it's only because of this that he wins the battle. At this moment, Geral orders to open the vault. Lava and its flows melt the Nekron's ice castle, which is located at the walls of the Heart Core. Lan and Tigra will mount the flying lizard that Lan flew in on, and then everyone who was in the ice castle perishes. However, the Dark Wolf manages to survive. Having made it out of the mess alive, Lan and Tigra finally kiss.